Welcome to the Creative Voices of Change, the podcast, where we'll dive into the rhythm of land, community, and creativity through conversations with artists. I'm your host, Anne-Isabelle Leonard. The conversation you'll be witnessing here come from a simple desire to make visible what usually go unseen. We're interested in quiet ways that artists act as change makers, shaping community, nurturing connection, and reminding us on how creativity can act as a powerful tool in upholding the challenges that we face today. We honor the long-term processes and commitments and the courage it takes to keep showing up. We'll share stories of creative practices, of bold yet subtle ideas, and community-rooted visions that remind us that the simplest ripple, may it be a poem, a gesture, or a song, can become a significant transformation. We believe art and the people who create it aren't at the sidelines of change, but at its heart. In this episode, I visited Jamie Davis, a Gitxsan artist from the Eagle Clan of Kitwanga, British Columbia. She currently resides on Lakiwum Tsimshian, the traditional territory of the Tsimshian people in Terrace, BC. A devoted single mother of one, Jamie balances her role as a parent with her thriving career as a multidisciplinary artist and entrepreneur. A graduate of the Freda Deasing School of Northwest Coast Art, Jamie has established herself as a multiple award-winning artist and the owner of her own business, Jada Creations, which she has run independently since 2019. Her artistic practice spans a wide range of mediums, including cedar weaving, wood sculpture, painting, jewelry engraving, mural work, and jewelry design. Each piece she creates reflects both her cultural heritage and her innovative vision. Beyond her artistic pursuits, Jamie is passionate about sports and enjoys playing softball, volleyball, and basketball. Her dedication, creativity, and entrepreneurial spirit have made her a respected and inspiring figure in both her community and the wider world of Indigenous art. Welcome to the fourth episode of Creative Voices of Change, the podcast. We start the podcast all the time by kind of asking this question because I asked you to bring me to a place that was dear to you. And so where are we? Tell me a little bit more about where we are and why is this a safe, important, or significant place in your life?
Well, we're right here in my home. It's actually, yeah, I'm sitting in my drawing chair, my thinking chair. But this is the first home that I purchased through my art and my business. So very near and dear to me. Very happy to have you here in my home.
What an achievement. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
It's like you've worked hard.
Oh, yes. Yes, I set that goal and I didn't stop until I achieved it. So.
And as an artist, like I know how much work it is to get into, these brackets, of just like, the regular life,
Yeah.
Well, you've made it really beautiful and I see so much art around, it's such a blessing to have walls to put your collection up. I mean, you were, of course, in houses before. But
yeah, it's like a mini gallery in here. I've collected art from a lot of different artists. I love to support artists as well. So
thank you for welcoming us here in your humble little nook and with your thinking chair. Just before opening the cameras, you're talking about how it's pretty busy right now because we're in salmon season, fishing season and everything.
Yes.
So I was wondering, we've been questioning a lot of our guests on this podcast about the idea of cycles and seasons. And so when I say these words, like, what comes up for you?
Well, the fishing season, it's the busiest season for me, and because my family and I we're a family of fishermen, fisherwomen, and we harvest our fish every summer together. We work in the smokehouse. I operate the boat, and salmon is life, really, and that's the basis behind my whole brand. So it's the most important season for me, and just the busiest.
And there are so many, beings around here, there's salmon, there are berries, there's bears, there are eagles. Like, how did the salmon become the center of your interest and work?
Well, we have a fishing hole, which is about 40 kilometers east of TELUS, right along the Skeena River. It's our traditional fishing hole, and it's been in our family. Well, it's tied to the names that we have, our traditional names, and it just gets passed down through the generations. And I grew up there as a kid. My mom grew up there, my mom's mom, and so on and so forth. And I just grew up watching my Jeets, which is my grandmother, so my mom's mom. I grew up watching her and just admiring her toss those big springs around like nothing, and I just wanted to be every bit like that. And just begging to go on the boat with them when I was like 8 years old, to go across the river and check the net. And I loved it. I loved everything to do with fish, from the cleaning to checking the net. And so now, as a grown woman, I'm the boat operator, one of two. My mom's the other one, and I still love to do it. So it's our most important resource here for us along the Skeena River, because not only does it sustain us, but it's great for the entire ecosystem, right? They've found DNA in the trees.
Yeah, so, I love that fact.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, salmon really is life.
Yeah, and it's and you doing that for so many years, and then it's been passed down too. There's so many years and so cycles that you've been doing this repetitively. Like, what came out of it after so many years? Like, I'm curious, how does it feel going back in it every year?
It's a rush for sure. It's, like I said, it is one of the most busiest seasons. It can get quite stressful, but at the same time, it's such an incredible feeling to know that we're providing for ourselves. We're living off the land, and we're providing for multiple families, and then at the same time, we're passing on that knowledge to the younger ones, the next generation. Yeah. Like my son, I've taken him out on the boat with me, and will continue to do so until he becomes the boat operator, and he's providing for his own little family.
There was a quote that I found of yours online on I think it was on your Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, and you were talking about going fishing with your auntie you were talking about, and you say, "This isn't a photo shoot, this is real life. I don't just design earrings, I live the stories behind them. Every salmon, every tide, every teaching passed down shows up in my work. This is what it means to be rooted, to create from truth, and to build a business from culture." I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. When I'm designing my jewelry, it's not just a pretty piece of jewelry to wear. It's really wearable art. It tells that story. It shares that bit of our history. And I'm sharing that with the world, because I've got a worldwide audience.
There was especially like the sentence, like, "This is not a photo shoot." It really spoke to me. I was really reflecting when I was reading that about the fact that we're in a special time where the term storytelling is really central to marketing. And so I feel like maybe you were referencing a little bit of that too, that form of authenticity when posting online. And so I was kind of wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about what that authenticity means to you, and how does one cultivate authentic storytelling and identity?
Well, for me, it's lived, and that's what that post was all about. I live my culture, I breathe it, I eat it, and that reflects in my work. And that's how I tell my stories. Like, I believe we're all storytellers in a way, but we tell them differently, and mine is through my art and through my jewelry. And especially like in today's day and age, there's a lot of businesses out there that culturally appropriate our art form especially, and just mass produce it, and a lot of people don't even realize that. They see a design, a native design, and they want to buy it because then it makes them feel connected in a way without even really knowing what's behind that design or who's behind that design. And then there's other businesses out there who are, I guess you would call them merchandisers, right? Like they produce certain products, but they're not the actual artist behind the work. You know, there's so many different types of businesses out there. And so for me, it's important that I share that my business is me. My brand is me. It's my identity. It's my story. It's my history. It's all me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's what sometimes I wonder, especially in an era with, you know, so many fake news going around, and now we're going into AI and all that stuff, of course. Like, let's not dive into AI.
Yes.
But that's why I was really thinking and reflecting on, you know, storytelling, as you say, is so central to your culture and where you come from and what is passed down. And so sometimes I feel like, you know, that some storyline have been robbed a little bit from, you know, there's being, I don't know, taking the space that they need, and or, you know, sometimes we see brands kind of like using certain stories and be like, oh, it looks so cheap, you know, like, oh,
right.
What are we gonna do? So because story is important, right? So yeah, it's sometimes I get really pissed off at advertisement for that. Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a lot out there, especially with the really tough topics like Every Child Matters or Our Stolen Sisters. You know, you'll get the people who really tap into that market and just really go off with it, but they're not actually living that experience, right? That's not lived for them. Yeah, that's it. And so it comes down also to, are you living the story that you're sharing? Yeah, exactly. Talking about, you know, those cycles and getting really busy in some seasons and going through these transitions between the seasons too, I was wondering if there's a relationship between your creativity and your artistic outbursts maybe, and the cycle of the seasons. And if so, like, how would you describe it?
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely inspired by the seasons. I remember when I was going to school between 2016 and 2019, and then hearing my mentors speak, and Dempsey would say, oh, you could see shapes in the land or whatever, and you'll just start to see it. And I actually, to be honest, I didn't see it for a while, but then I started seeing it and just being inspired by that. But also, for instance, when we're coming into spring and the flowers start to bloom, and then all the medicines start popping up, and so I definitely get inspired by that and design based off of that. We are so blessed with this land that we live on. We have everything needed to be healthy. Nature provides everything for us. And that's something that I'm like really starting to tap into too, like with my art. And it's almost like a motivating factor too. And the more I learn about anything, the more I want to learn. Like one thing that just keeps popping into my head is the rosehip flower. like it grows in abundance on our traditional territory, and that's medicine in itself. The flowers when they bloom in the spring, the little bulbs that are left there in the winter season, and like everything is just utilized, and that's just one example. And so when I'm looking at a specific plant or a tree, I'm thinking on how I can design that and interpret that into a jewelry design and share that with the world.
So interpret also not only what you see, but like physically, but also what is carried by either the plant or That's a whole challenge. How would you interpret that's such a hard word to say for a microphone. Interpret such teachings.
I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. I guess that's just one of my gifts of storytelling, right? And I think that's actually like the first time that I'm actually calling myself a storyteller.
Okay.
So I guess that's just one way, it's just like how you are able to come here and talk to me and have this conversation flow so naturally. Like, I don't have that gift. That's a gift that you have. So it's the same way, but different.
Visual. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And have you seen that gift of yours like take more space or kind of evolve in certain ways over the years?
Yeah, for sure. Like, especially like being an artist is one thing, but then running a business is entirely different. And so you really have to learn the marketing and the social media. And so learning how to interpret it and put it down into written word is a skill in itself. And so, but the more you do it, it just starts to flow more naturally.
Talking about all the stories that your wearable art carries, I feel like when I look at your presence online and everything, the stories that you're sharing, you're really tapping into that, like into also quite a bit of needs that are felt around you as well, because there's quite a big response to the stories you're sharing.
For sure.
I really wanted to also go into, of course, Jada Creations, which is your jewelry line, because when you like your pieces hold so much concepts and stories and skills, and your designs, everything that goes into it, and I've been thinking a lot about the revival of craft art in the art world around the world right now. And it's been quite present in the last few years, whether it's like through fabric or ceramics, or beading, all these different kind of what would be called craft arts, right? And I love the fact that you're a multidisciplinary artist. You've done carving and painting and all these different kinds of mediums. And then jewelry has been taking a lot of space in your life. We're talking about, of course, having a business. It's a lot of work. So I guess one thing that strikes me is that you call it wearable art and not jewelry. And so I kind of want to hear you a little bit talk about the choice of the word wearable art here.
Well, for me, like jewelry, you could go buy that at a big box store. It's mass produced and it's cheap. But wearable art it's going back to having that story behind it. It really has meaning, and it resonates with a lot of people because I'm Indigenous, and so it's authentic Indigenous art. It also helps people really connect with themselves. Like, there's a lot of disconnection with our people, and that's due to colonization. And we're all on this healing journey, and all in different stages of our healing journey, but the important thing is that we are on this journey and we're all on it together. And so a part of my jewelry is empowering them and allowing them to feel proud of who they are and to reclaim that part of their identity. And then on the flip side, with my non-Indigenous people, I don't know what you want to call them, customers. They're more than customers.
Participants.
I call them my Jada fam. Online, it's my Jada fam. So I'll call them, it's my Jada fam. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It actually allows them to connect with us as well, and to help share that story, keep that conversation going, and in turn, become our allies.
I've been seeing a lot of that online too, a lot of Indigenous brands kind of stepping up and being like, everybody can wear Indigenous mm-hmm. clothing and designs. Mm-hmm. And it's been nice to, to get that message around a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely get asked that a lot, and I actually do have that stated on my website as well, that my jewelry is for everyone. My wearable art is for everyone. It's for him, it's for her, it's for them, everyone and anyone.
When I read that wearable art and the choice, it's a very blunt choice of word, which is great. It reminded me of when I used to want to be a fashion designer back in the day.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really loved about fashion was how you make a whole design, the object is there, but then it goes out into the world and it lives a whole different life that you ever thought it would, right?
Right.
You would pair it with different jeans or outfits or other jewelry, but then somebody could just do something completely mm-hmm. different with it.
Yeah.
How does it feel to see your art in the world?
It still blows my mind, actually. Mm-hmm. I've been doing this for 6 solid years now, and it still blows my mind. Every time I see someone, I'm like, I get oh my God, they're wearing my stuff. It's, that feeling hasn't faded from when I first started making jewelry, and I don't know if it ever will. I hope it doesn't, because it's exciting every time. That's the beauty part of it too, is that people pair it differently. They wear it differently, and it doesn't matter what you're wearing, the earrings are going to look good. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's true.
You could have a hoodie and sweatpants on, and you put those earrings on, and you're just like, I feel fabulous.
Yeah. Which kind of brings me also to, you were talking about the importance of giving back this power through jewelry and wearable art and wearing the stories. I've been reflecting a lot also on, the power of just I feel like when I wear different clothes or different jewelry, of course I feel more empowered, or mm-hmm. there's some days that my needs are met differently. Mm-hmm. And fashion is sometimes seen, I find, as a way to please others, but for me it's not that at all. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts about, the role of, fashion and what we wear and how what we put on our bodies to kind of feel mm-hmm. better,
Whenever I'm designing jewelry, I'm really designing what I like and love. I design something that I'm gonna wear because I know how it makes me feel, right? These earrings that I have on, these have been my go-tos right now. It's the salmon egg. It's my unofficial logo for my business, because Salmon is Life. That's the series that I put out there 5 years ago, and it's a series that I'm always going to have,
because it keeps on coming back.
Yeah, the salmon returns.
It just returns.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
No, it's totally true, and I feel like all the different designs that keep coming back, it says a lot also about those cycles that we're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It never fades away.
Yeah, and I know with fashion we kind of, it's what's trending, right? What's trending? What season is next? I think with earrings, there is no trending. it doesn't matter if it's an old piece or a new piece. It's going to be fabulous, just as fabulous as ever. And I think that's what I love about it too, because I still see a lot of my older stuff out there, and I think that's an amazing thing to see, right? Like, it's not like that fast fashion where, you know, like one thing is just in for one season and then you're not going to wear it again, right? Because then something else is coming out and it's like, oh my God, like you're wearing, that is so last year kind of thing. But it's not like that with jewelry. Yeah.
No, especially because you're doing your designs in such, like, you know, such a honest way also. Honesty doesn't go out of fashion, I guess. Right.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever had thoughts about just, you know, how, because you have like such a I don't want to say formal training, but I guess it is formal in some ways, you know, like Fredadizing is such a formal education in Indigenous art, and doing jewelry now, like how do you feel that influenced your work and your growth as a wearable artist?
Well, I started off as a cedar bark weaver. I was doing it all, right? The traditional hats, baskets, mats, and then it kind of evolved into jewelry design. And that's when I started making wearable art. And that's when I really learned about wearable art, because there was the story behind my cedar woven jewelry designs, because I was transforming the energy of the cedar tree into a tangible piece. And you know, that connected you with the land and part of the culture. Being a cedar weaver, I actually decided to go to the Fredadizing School of Northwest Coast Art so I could learn how to paint designs on my cedar woven hats.
Okay, that's how it started.
Yeah, that's how it started. And then I actually saw this one Indigenous business years ago. She was a cedar weaver as well, and then her partner at the time, I think he actually might have went to the Fredadizing School, I'm not sure, but he was painting on her woven earrings, and I was totally inspired by that too. Absolutely beautiful. And so I thought, like, I could probably do that as well. And so I went to the Fredadizing, did my 3 years there. Actually have not yet painted on a cedar hat.
Love it, love it. But that means it worked though.
Yeah, but that's not to say I never will. But like my art, it just evolved, and I'm just allowing myself to, you know, flow with it, right? It's the natural progression of my art, and just evolving into today's day and age, especially with my acrylic designs, because that's a very new and modern material. And so I'm just combining the modern material with my traditional art form and fusing it together to create something very meaningful.
I was going to say, your designs are very modern, and even I saw a little sneak peek downstairs of what you're going to do for the Skeena Simon art show. And what, you know, bringing all this Indigenous culture and art back, because that was the goal of Dempsey and Ken and Stan with Fredadizing, and now bringing it into modernity. I was wondering, like, how does it feel to see Indigenous art in the now, you know?
It's like, when I went to school, I think it was like, there's been so many incredible artists that have gone through that school and come out of that school, and it just keeps getting better and better. Like, it's such an amazing thing to see the revival of that. But I, like, going back to your question, I was actually talking to Dempsey, and I was telling him about this idea I had, because I work with acrylic now with my jewelry, and I had this idea to do actually bigger art pieces. And he's like, just do it. just do it. And I was like, okay. So I did it. I know it's not well received a whole lot of the time because it is acrylic, and a lot of people are like, that's not traditional. Like, you shouldn't be putting our art form on plastic things. And I know I have seen that out there in the world, and I don't let it get to me, because I've always said, and I know a lot of people are on the same page as me when I say, if our ancestors had it, they would use it. Because that's how it was. We didn't always have copper. We didn't always have abalone shells. It came to us. We started using it. We didn't always have the tools, but when metal started coming around, we started using it. We evolve and we grow, and that's what culture is. That's what our culture is. So we're evolving and we're growing with the times. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
I'm sure it also brings, this possibility in making a lot more also, and making the stories more accessible to people too.
Oh, for sure.
But I feel the tension so then that kind of like evolving into different materials and then staying within the traditional, right?
Right. Yeah, like I've even heard people complaining about how carvers use chainsaws to block out.
I've heard that one.
Yeah, like why not? Why not? It's there, utilize it.
But I feel like there's something with technology to be said, because I've heard that also for drawers and painters using Photoshop or different tool or projectors, right? Even I feel like there's kind of a myth of the artists that do everything in such like a very pristine old school way.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I wonder why people want to conserve that so much,
Yeah, I'm not sure. But like, I still draw with the pencil and paper, but I also use my iPad, and
which is practical.
Yeah.
And it opens so many possibilities. And I found this quote online of yours too. It was an article in the TELUS Standard. I can't remember when about, but it was a while ago.
Probably a long time ago.
And you said here, cedar rope, it symbolizes unity. And I say unity because you could take one strand of cedar bark and it's very weak and easily broken. But once you weave multiple strands together to make rope, it creates that strong bond. It's unbreakable. And being First Nations, we are the original custodians of Mother Earth. I came back to this quote because, of course, now we're talking about different materials and everything, and cedar was your first love.
Yeah.
And I've been asking these questions to people in our podcast too, where I'm interested in the teaching that we receive from the more than human world and the non-human beings that we share our space with and our life with. And so I'm curious to hear what the most important teaching is that you've received from a non-human being in your life, either for yourself or for your art.
Probably the cedar tree.
Yeah. The quote I just said.
Yeah. Well, that was actually like my first, like you said, it was my first love, and the first thing I was introduced to, and is what jump-started my whole healing journey, stepping on this path as an artist, reclaiming my identity as an Indigenous person. And so the first thing I learned about was the cedar tree is known as the tree of life, and how we utilized every single part of the tree for something. Each part, each branch, the bark, the poles had a purpose. An important part of that is, especially with the cedar weaving, like if we're not going to use the whole tree, like for myself, I'm a cedar weaver, but I don't know how to like build a longhouse, right? So I'm not going to cut down the whole tree just for once for the bark. So we learned and this knowledge was passed on since the beginning of time. We learned how much bark to take off of a live standing tree so that it can continue to live and thrive. So that's another part of that too. We don't over harvest.
Yeah, and the harvesting is so much a part of those rituals, you know, whether it be salmon or trees or anything. And would it apply to stories, do you think, also?
What do you mean?
I mean, like, you know, in terms of, I've heard quite a bit of people around town here, mainly Indigenous people around town, telling me, you know, some stories are meant to be told and others are not meant to be told.
Yeah, exactly. Within our own WILP or house group, like, we do have our own stories, and that's part of why it's an oral history as well. It's not written down, because if we share it, then other people might start telling that story, and then over time, you know, like, it could be shared so much by a certain someone that they start to believe that it's theirs, and then they pass that on to their next generation, and then they're like, no, we heard this from so and so, this is ours, right? And so that's why we don't share all of our stories that belong to our house.
Some things are meant to be shared almost as if you don't tell all your life story to a stranger necessarily.
Right. And with our history, and we call it a dawak, stories and names are tied to the land. And so we all know where, like, whose land or traditional territory it is. Like, I'm not going to go across over there and harvest over there unless I have permission, right? And so that's part of that as well.
As we're talking a lot about the process here, it's something that I read quite a bit on many of your posts and on your website and everything, you know, talking about respecting the process. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about art as process and not as a finished object necessarily.
It's like being on a journey, right? Or like the end destination is not the goal, it's the journey that you're on, and you have to respect every bit of the process on it. You can't skip over anything, because you're not going to reach the end goal if you try to skip over something, right? Like, if I want to do a painting, I mean, some people can, I suppose, but I wouldn't be able to just take the paintbrush and have like a masterpiece and just paint that on a panel. You know, I gotta take the pencil and paper and I gotta draw it down and then refine it, and then, you know, just go back and forth. And that's all part of the process. And you know, we gotta respect every stage of it. And I think that's just what separates a lot of people, because a lot of people just want to have that finished product, and, you know, they rush through it, and I think that takes a lot away from it. Like, for instance, weaving a cedar hat, right? A lot of people just want to learn how to make a cedar hat, but they don't want to learn how to actually weave, right? They want to make the cedar hat because they see big bucks attached to it, kind of thing. And so just respecting the entire process is part of being an artist.
So it's a big process. It's most of the work.
Yeah.
Another aspect that I feel like has been, forgotten from my artistic training was to mention how much of being an artist is being an entrepreneur. And I know that it takes a lot of space in your life. I wonder what you would like to say to those young artists that are coming out into the world and discovering that harsh truth, what it means to be an artistic entrepreneur.
Well, it doesn't happen overnight. Success does not happen overnight. It takes a lot of dedication, hard work, determination, perseverance, and the love of what you're doing. I love to say determination and dedication will get you anywhere you need to be, anywhere you want to be. Yeah, being an entrepreneur, you are wearing all of the hats, many different hats. Hats you wouldn't even know of, hats you don't like to wear, but you gotta wear it. But at the same time, you know, like you can get to that point where you might be able to outsource. You might be able to give a hat to someone else to wear, but for the most part, you're wearing all of them. And it's just all part of the process.
You know, it surprised me big time when I got in it. So it's there's a part of me that it's nice to hear that and having that advice given to. There was a quote that I found of yours on an interview video for the Coast Mountain College that you did quite a while ago, I think, maybe when you were in school. And you were saying, when we are drawing, painting, and carving, it's like we can feel our ancestors watching us. And I just know they would be proud of us that we're still practicing our art form. We're keeping it alive. We're still here. There is a lot of resilience in these words, I find. And that's something that I go and seek every time I go outside in the woods or close to a river or anything. It's this feeling of resilience, of something that's much bigger than me and that is channeled in actions that I'm doing every day. And so I was wondering, in what ways do practicing art help you building and keeping that resilience?
Well, there was a time where we weren't allowed to practice our art. We weren't allowed to practice our culture. We weren't allowed to be. Really, we would get jailed or even killed if we practiced our culture, if we spoke our language. And so, yeah, knowing that this art form is still alive and it's only gotten stronger, especially since I graduated years ago. You know, it's gained momentum. It's only gotten stronger, and art, I know, has been healing for so many of us, myself included. And so, yeah, the resilience is there. You know, just these drawings, these paintings, carvings, weavings, it is still there, even though colonization tried to take it from us. They tried to take everything from us, but it survived. So yeah, our ancestors are very proud of us. I know that, because I can feel it. I can definitely feel it. I feel them standing behind me, especially when I first learned how to weave. I really did feel like my ancestors just channeled through me, and I knew what to do. When I first picked up that cedar bark, like, I watched my mentor, Vicky Moody is her name, from Haida Gwaii, and she showed me how to weave. But she called me over and she had a little circle prepared, and it's the circle that's either the bottom of a basket or the top of a hat. And she's like, I'm going to show you how to do the 2-strand twine. And so she started twining, and I'm watching over her shoulder. And then she's like, did you see how I did it? I was like, yeah, I think so. So she handed that to me. She's like, okay, well, you try. And right then and there, my fingers just started moving. It was like blood memory. So that's what that quote really references. And it's the same thing with carving, even like all of it, actually, not just carving, not just weaving, but the designing and painting, because a couple of big projects that I can touch on was, it was like I went into a trance almost with my carvings when I was in school. Next thing you know, we're at the end of the year and I have these finished masks, and I was like, how the heck did I even get here? It's like, I did that. And then with a mural that I did, I stepped back and I had this finished mural on this house front, and I was like, wow, because you're just like right in it. And that's like, again, my ancestors are just channeling through me. Art is definitely the language of our ancestors, and we are giving them a voice again.
I've heard this in quite a bit of artists around town, and that rediscovering, the hands just knew what they were doing, and everything just felt right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful to hear that. Like, I know I've talked about it over the years, and I'm starting to hear a lot of it too from other people. And yeah, like that's our ancestors, our spirits are calling us back to who we are as Indigenous people.
Yeah, it's like a life and an energy and a recall as well, all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like everything's whoa.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what it feels like, because art for me and my culture is quite different, right? And the way that we're educated and what it is, and but channeling that much life is vibrant. And I can feel it when I see art pieces around town, and the life that it goes through. What do you think the responsibility of an artist is in 2025?
I think the responsibility of us as Indigenous artists is to really dig deep into your own history and learn your history. It's not all the same with Northwest Coast art. Like, we come from different nations, right? Gitxsan, Nisga'a, Tsimshian, Haisla, Haida, Heiltsuk, Nuxalk. While the art form may be similar, it is different. And so it's really, really important to learn your own history and your style, because going back to what I said just earlier, art is the language of our ancestors. And so I'm not going to be telling someone else's story, right? I'm not going to carve in Nuxalk style and try to tell their story. I'm going to tell my own story. And that goes back to keeping it authentic and honest.
Well, thank you so much, Jamie. This was such a lovely conversation. And to close it off, there's 3 little questions I always ask all of my guests. So what's the book that changed you and why?
This was the first one that changed my life. From time before memory, the people of Gamlegi Halhal, which is Nisga'a, the Nisga'a people. And Gamlegi Halhal is our creator. So when I was cedar weaving, I think this was a decade ago now. No, wait, 2013 and 2014 is when I was really into the cedar weaving, and I landed this summer job at the Visitor Info Center in the Nass Valley. And so that building is like a mini longhouse, right? It had a beautiful house front. It was designed and painted on, and inside was like a little mini museum. It had photos all up on the wall, and then it had books inside. And I got a job there where I got to weave all day, every day while I was working, while talking to tourists worldwide about my culture, and I was learning more about my culture because I'm talking to people, right? I don't want to be like, oh, I don't know this or that about my own people. But this book was there, and I just kept reading it cover to cover and just learning and loving it. And this is actually what really pulled me into my culture and myself, my identity, because the more I learned from this book, the more I wanted to learn.
My second question is, who is an artist or an art piece that changed you and how?
I was working at the bank at the time, so it was in 2015. Before I knew I was going to the Frida Deasing School, before I even had a thought in my mind that I could be an artist, that I could do it for a living. It was never a thought. I'm working at the bank. I saw upward movement in that career, in that industry. But my auntie Fran, who's actually my godmom too, she went to that school. And I had no idea that this place even existed. I've never heard of it until she went to that school. And I saw one of her masks. I went to one of her shows, or one of the school's shows, and you know, she was a part of it obviously. But I saw her portrait mask, and then seeing the grain on the cheekbones, and it was just like perfect. And I was like, oh my God, like that is incredible. Like you did that? You did that? Like, it was just unbelievable to me. Like I didn't even know this place existed. And then my auntie Fran went there, graduated, and it was the following school year that I applied for that program. Got accepted, quit my job, and the rest is history. Or herstory is what I love to say, because it is my story and not his.
Yeah. I love these stories of how places and people find a way in people's lives.
Yeah.
And how like the school went through your auntie to you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And you were able to listen to it too. Mm-hmm. What an impact.
Yeah. I was at work when I applied.
That says a lot.
Put up my closed teller sign. I'm like, I'll be right with you. No, I'm kidding. I didn't do that.
I feel like it happened to so many artists out there. And my final question for you is, do you want to share a project that you're proud of, or a final story or anecdote with the listeners?
Absolutely. So I really started creating because like I grew up in this town of Terrace, this settler town of Terrace. Very racist town. And even today, racism is still very evident. But when I was growing up, I didn't realize what it was, because it was so normal. And it made me feel so much shame in who I was as a little Indigenous girl, or Native girl, Indian, Aboriginal. It's like whatever the government decided to label us the next year. Something else. But, you know, like growing up and losing who I was, trying to fit in with society, being so ashamed of who I was. And until I stepped on this path as an artist, and being a single mother, raising my son in this world, in this same town. So I started to create so that my son would never have to worry about that, so that he can grow up to be proud of himself, be proud of his identity. And he is. He's growing his hair long, and he received his traditional eagle name how many years ago now? 4 years ago now. And he learned it right away, and he is so proud to say it. And oh, it's just making me so emotional talking about it, because like just when you hear him say his eagle name, like that is what I worked for. So I know it just makes me so proud to know that he is proud of who he is, when I did not have that as a little girl.
It's like the whole, you worked so hard also at that.
Yes, I reclaimed my identity. I took up this space and created this space for my son and many others, I'm sure. Like, I know there's so many others out there doing the same thing. So yeah, that's what I'm most proud of.
That's a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's just, we were talking about the vibration of the ancestors, of your ancestors through your art making, and now feeling that vibration in your son's voice every time he says his eagle name must be, what a feeling.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jamie, for sharing all these stories with us, for your hard work, and for the space that you took and you keep taking, for that application that you sent that obviously changed your life. And I wish you such a beautiful rest of your day, and I'm so excited to see what comes out of the rest of your journey.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for being here and allowing me to share that, allowing me the space to share that. So I really appreciate it.
Of course. All right, thank you everybody, and we'll see you at the next episode of Creative Voices of Change.